Hi all, my name is Haley Comment and welcome to my cosmic corner of the internet where we discuss all things astrology. And today, Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. Yes, how you can co-create with both Jupiter and Saturn stimulating the Aquarius part of your chart in December 2020 and parts of the year 2021. So we're breaking it down rising sign by rising sign because I've gotten a lot of questions of like, I don't get it. Jupiter is expansion, Saturn is restriction. They're in the same house in my chart. How do I both expand that area while restricting? We're breaking it down. So before we dive in, if you could do me a favor, like, comment, turn the bell on for notifications. It really helps me keep these cosmic videos coming. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Saturn will re-enter Aquarius December 18th, 2020. Jupiter will enter Aquarius for the first time December 20th, 2020. The two will get together in what's called a great conjunction. This one is special because it's kicking off an air sign cycle, which will go on until 2153. Jupiter and Saturn get together every 20 years, but since the 1800s, they've met up in earth signs. And we are now starting an air sign cycle of Jupiter and Saturn meeting up until 2153. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I'm so excited to do a video just dedicated to that event and what it could mean. But in this video, I more so want to focus on ways that you can co-create with both Saturn and Jupiter in that sector of your chart. In 2021, they will be gathered together until Jupiter enters Pisces May 14th. Then Jupiter will cruise through Pisces until it's retrograde, and it will go back into Aquarius July 29th, and it'll stay there until December 29th. So know for the bigger portion of 2021, Jupiter and Saturn will both be in Aquarius, but there are parts of May, June, and July 2021 where Jupiter will be in Pisces, and that'll be a whole different video. So the themes overall, they'll be in the sign of Aquarius. Now, we know that Aquarius governs humanitarian ideals. It governs friendships and groups and innovation. And with Saturn in Aquarius, it's really a time that we have to be concrete and definitive about what it is that we stand for. We can't really be wishy-washy about, the humanitarian ideals that we have. It's time to put them into action. It's not enough to talk the talk of the causes you're passionate about. It's time to walk the walk by doing the work in those areas, protesting, fundraising, whatever it looks like to you and the causes that you're really passionate about. It also will put some pressure on our friendships and the groups that we're associated with. It could be we just hang out with people because, they're fun, they're convenient to hang out with. And in Saturn and Aquarius, it's gonna kind of restrict friendships. And we've already seen this. The first time it went into Aquarius was when the term social distancing was coined, and when all of a sudden we need to leverage technology, that's Aquarius, to connect with people. And that could be continued to be a theme as it re-enters. But I also see a theme of any friendship that's built on unshaky foundation will crumble away. So if there are people that you've hung out with just because it's fun or just they're convenient, it'll likely fall away. But with Jupiter also in Aquarius, there's really an expansiveness of calling in, the people that you really connect with, the causes that you really connect with. We can also see a lot of kind of humanitarian advancement. It's not going to come easy. Whenever Saturn's somewhere, it doesn't come easy. It's going to ask for our discipline and our daily kind of participation. But with Jupiter there, it can be something that expands us and that interests us. So now I'm going to break it down rising sign by rising sign. So we'll start with Aquarius rising because, why not? We never start with Aquarius. So Aquarius rising. So with Aquarius rising, we've got Jupiter and Saturn in your first house. So how does that get together? So yes, you will be feeling this expansive, open-minded Jupiterian influence. You might be feeling like the sky is the limit and you can really co-create anything. You might have a pronounced desire to have fun and to expand and to try new things, to enjoy life. Oftentimes when Jupiter crosses the ascendant, many people can gain a little weight just because they're more likely to say yes to the chocolate cake here, to the trip there. It just kind of expands you in all ways. But Saturn's right there. So I want you to take that expansiveness of Jupiter crossing the ascendant, which is like how you view life, how you view possibility, and match it with discipline. It's not enough to dream, to throw things to the wall and to see what sticks. Saturn is asking you during this time to break down those Jupiterian ideals into small, actionable steps. And while you should enjoy life and really seize that Jupiterian influence. Saturn is also there, so you could be a little bit more regimented about your body. You could come across as more disciplined, more authoritative. You could come forward as more of a leader type because you're kind of matching this influence of Jupiter, which is very expansive and very encouraging, with Saturn, which is very authoritative and responsible. So it needs to be a match in terms of how you see the world. So yes, get excited by Jupiter, but get structured by Saturn. Be motivating by Jupiter, but be firm like Saturn. It takes a marriage, but it's a really powerful time for you, Aquarius rising. So really seize it by, yes, expanding, but expanding in concrete, solid ways rather than just throwing things out there. To co-create with Jupiter and Saturn, you want to make sure that while you're enjoying the Jupiterian expansiveness, like eyes wide open, you're also being disciplined. Pisces rising, you will have Saturn and Jupiter in your 12th house for the majority of 2021. Now, you're already a pretty psychic, pretty intuitive person. You understand that there are energetics that are not said but totally valid, and this might be a time that you really start trusting in those insights. With Jupiter expanding your 12th house, you could start getting a lot more psychic data. You could start picking up on things and you're like, where did that come from? It can nearly be almost overwhelming. But with Saturn there, it kind of gives you this ability to kind of restrain yourself a bit. And to kind of put in the daily diligence to expand those abilities. Like for example, like with Jupiter in the 12th, you could all of a sudden get a rush of like mediumship insight or like tarot, like connect more to modality. But Saturn's there to be like, okay, let's understand it, let's study it, let's make time daily to understand this thing and be able to tap into it. You could also, with Saturn in this area, like set up a business around the talents that you have, but you have to be responsible about it. Saturn, the theme is being responsible, having your daily diligence, making sure you're studying the craft, understanding the craft, like restraining the craft so you're not just getting all of this insight that overwhelms you, that you're finding ways that makes it a little bit more manageable. 12th house is also isolation, and you might find you are inclined to want to spend much more time alone. And with Saturn there, if you don't really spend that much time alone, you might have to be very disciplined about telling people like, I will not be reached. Do not try to reach me. It could be like putting an hour on your Google Calendar where it's like, this is my time to meditate and connect to my spirit. And with Jupiter in the 12th, we'll find that alone time a lot more kind of expansive. You also may be doing this work around your subconscious processing and really empowering your mindset. And this isn't like your conscious thoughts, it's more so the underlying scripts that can steer the ship of your life. And you can, with Jupiter in the 12th, you can find that you're a little bit more optimistic about things, that you're like feeling a little bit more expansive in your mindset. But with Saturn there, it's going to take some discipline. So if you feel like subconscious processes that are not serving are dominating your life, use Saturn. Saturn is there to teach you discipline. It's there to set up a morning routine where you write things that you're grateful for, or a nightly routine where you make sure you meditate. The daily routines and rituals that you can do to promote a healthy state of mind. With Jupiter there, we can feel expansive in those areas, but it's not going to come easy. It requires us having discipline and wanting enough. But you could find at the end of this transit that you're in such a different mental space because you took the time, you made the effort to make it happen for yourself. Aries rising, Saturn and Jupiter will be collaboratively expanding while restricting your 11th house. So this is really a time to weed out, the fakes that are in your friend group, or the people, that you spend time with that don't inspire you. And I want you to look at the people you're around and really ask yourself the deeper questions like, do we stand for the same things? Do they have, my best interests in mind? Do we share the same values? Do I feel inspired about my hopes and dreams when I'm around these people? Do these people help me on my pursuit forward? These are all questions to ask yourself. And with Saturn in this area, you might feel very restricted from the people you're around. You could be with them and just not feel as connected to them. Or I've had clients where it's like their friends moved away or they moved away, so there was like physical distance. So it is asking, if the answer is yes, my friends do support my best self and they do share the same values, Saturn might ask you to be very disciplined about making sure you spend time with them, that you check up on them, that you nurture those relationships. However, if you're finding that people weigh you down and the answer to those questions is no, Saturn's there to kind of clean up the people who are not contributing to your energy. But trust that with Jupiter in the 11th, you will encounter a rush of new kind of audiences and new people and new groups that you can connect with, whether this is online or in person. With Saturn there, I want you to be disciplined about making sure that you go out there and connect with new groups of people. If you like knitting, join a knitting club. If you hear of a young entrepreneur's happy hour and you're an entrepreneur, go out there. Jupiter does promise that you can meet mentors at these sort of things. You could really expand your network. You could expand your online audiences as well, so connecting with the communities there that you want to connect with. But it takes being disciplined. It takes going to the happy hour, even if you're more comfy, like just watching Netflix. It takes putting yourself out there daily on your online communities to begin to have people know you. You can really reach an expansion of like all of your online platforms. Taurus rising. So Saturn and Jupiter are in cahoots at the top of your chart in the 10th house. Now, this will be a really critical year for you. 2021 will be, in terms of really cementing the work that you've been doing in the public eye. And this could be career, this could be a passion project, an altruistic project, but it's really important to put yourself out there. And you might feel like you're way in the spotlight, or you might have a new responsibility thrust upon you where you're like, am I even ready for this? And you might find authority figures are breathing down your neck and you feel like every mistake is like magnetized to the umpteenth degree. Keep muscling through it, because I promise at the end of this transit, you will start to get the rewards and the recognitions that you seek. But it takes a lot of legwork, particularly at the beginning, to cement that part of your chart. So, accept extra responsibility, put in the effort day in and day out. I promise you it will not last forever. And Jupiter is there. So if you put in the energy, if you take the extra tasks, if you show your authority figures like, look, like how great I do, Jupiter is there to promise that you will receive an expansion in how you are viewed by other people. It could be an expansion of how you are viewed by authority figures. You could get like a swarm of new clients with Jupiter expanding that area. You could just be seen as someone who's very knowledgeable. I also want you to lean into opportunities to kind of bolster your professional toolbox. So if there are conferences that you can go to or classes that you can take, you could be seen at this time as someone who's very knowledgeable, or perhaps you like take on the role as a mentor of someone else at your company or something of the nature. It's very important, Taurus rising, that you are okay with being seen. Take extra responsibilities as they're given to you. Take extra educational opportunities. Yes, it might be a lot, but you're my hardworking bulls. I know that you can take it all. And by the end, seriously, your public persona, how people see you, it'll be in such a vastly different place. So lean in to those seemingly contradictory energies of extra work, but also kind of expansive work, because I promise you, it'll be worth it. By the end of 2021, you'll be like, wow, I'm so glad I put in that energy and really cemented my position in society. Gemini rising, Saturn and Jupiter are in your 9th house for the majority of 2021. And you might find during this influence, you may feel inclined to get your master's degree. You may incline to get more education, more things under your tool belt, or there could be some spiritual modalities that you've been really passionate about, but you haven't really concretely, muscled them in. And you're Gemini rising, so your energy is kind of, scattered and you get excited by things all the time. But this is really the time to tone down being the Jack or the Jane of all trades and really hone in on what you want to learn about and what you want to build within your life. So it could be enrolling in a new class and a new certification, and bolstering your mindset in that way, and really putting down the legwork to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm working towards, and daily making time for it. And you can be sure that with Jupiter expanding it, it'll reap many rewards, even just for your spirit. So let's say higher education, that's not for you. It could be like you've been always really interested in Buddhism, or you've been interested in astrology and you want to dive deeper. This could be a time of, investing in retreats or putting in the due diligence of studying every single day. It's not enough to just want all these things and have no direction, Gemini rising. It's a time to be really clear on what your deeper connection to life is. So what spiritually excites you, what mentally really piques your interest about life, and leaning into it. You could also travel during this time. I mean, at the time of filming this, we're in quarantine here in the US, but if you are, somewhere else, you could find that you get these really expansive travel opportunities that open up a brand new, mindset for you. But with Saturn there, it's really important to keep in mind that with Saturn in your ninth house, ensuring your visa is all in order, your passport is in order, doing the due diligence. Don't just pack the night before, research everything. Like when Saturn's there, any sort of negligence will be expanded to the umpteenth degree. So really do your due diligence, research where you want to study, don't just fly by the seat of your pants. It really takes you being disciplined about this is what I want to do and this is what I want to build. My Cancer risings, Jupiter and Saturn will be in your 8th house. And now Cancer is a very security-oriented sign. And this energy may feel very scary. You may be asked to kind of surrender and kind of free fall into trusting others. So it could be having to trust your spouse to support you, or having to trust your parents to support you, or opening up, like in an intimate way and feeling, that loss of control, but also that power that comes with just trusting. And you might be inclined to want to, plan out every step. And with Saturn in the 8th house, you might just do best, just letting things percolate and unfold according to divine timing. And this might feel really uncomfortable, particularly at the beginning. There could be kind of a stagnancy in these areas. Like you might feel, you might lose a stream of support and have to trust that more money or more support will come to you in other ways. Or you might feel like it's not safe to open up to someone new, to share your body with your mind with someone new. The 8th house is where we merge. You also may have to, I don't want to instill any fear in you, but you may have to kind of confront kind of some fears that you have around death. Because I really feel like if we can find out what we fear the most about death, we can find out what we should pursue the most in life. So if you're like, oh my gosh, everything seems like it's ending, it's all gonna die, what am I gonna do? Like, I never wrote that novel. Then you gain more clarity, like, wait, that's what really means most to me, is like writing a novel. Like, why am I waiting, to make that happen? So with Saturn and Jupiter, it's asking, lean into this kind of free fall energy and take those disciplined steps to open yourself up to it. Like, connect deeper to your partner, merge finances with your business partner, trust that the power when we merge, whether it's with another person or with the divine, is more powerful than what we could have done on our own. Leo rising, Jupiter and Saturn will be in your 7th house, which governs other people. So I'll mention kind of possibilities if you're single or if you're committed, kind of moving into it, because it'll be two totally different experiences. So if you are single, with Jupiter expanding that area, you certainly will have a lot of options for mates in 2021. But Saturn's there too. So it's not just like, okay, whatever works, sign me up. No. You have to appease Saturn. So Saturn is kind of pressurizing that part of your chart. So it's asking you to like commit to someone who is rather serious, who is like, connected to the same humanitarian ideals as you are, or stands for the same things. They could be older or like more educated in some way, with the Saturn part of it. It's not just a good time, a fun time. It's something a little bit more committed. So I want you to have your standards of excellence very high and be committed to that. Don't dip down, because with Saturn there, you can definitely enter a relationship that is very committed, and you don't want to waste time just chasing, what's a good time. But Jupiter will kind of expand that area. So in 2021, don't feel like you have to, settle down with the first thing that comes your way, because more are coming your way. And they can be very Jupiterian types, very worldly, very like educated, very expansive, very exciting, but ensure that in addition to being the Jupiterian side, they're also the Saturnian, committed, more serious about you, has the same values, etc. Now, if you are committed, you could find that, anything Saturn theme, anything built on unshaky foundation will crumble. So if you're in a relationship where it's just, as a fun time, just a good time, that is likely going to fall away, because Saturn will pressurize it. It'll feel like the fun is sucked out of the relationship. It'll feel like you don't stand for the same things. And it'll really make very clear to you where there are gaps in the foundations, where there are, flaws in the makeup of your partnership. So don't just, break up with someone just because Saturn's there and just because there's some hard times, because I can guarantee you, committed Leo risings, there's going to put some pressure on your relationship. There can be, financial burdens or just emotional burdens. It will kind of, dampen it. It won't feel that fun with Saturn in the 7th house. But trust that Saturn is trying to teach you discipline and the discipline that it takes to build a union. And with Jupiter right there, the payoffs for putting in the time, being disciplined about your relationships are immense. It can really be a learning opportunity because, you know, a good relationship isn't just had, it is built. So it's learning like, hey, we gotta, you know, when we both get home from work, go on a walk and talk about our day and make that time to connect, or have a date night once a week. Being disciplined about how you nurture that relationship and make sure each person is being nurtured. So if it's an unshaking foundation, it's a relationship that's meant to fall away, Saturn will crumble it away. And if it does, I want you to trust that Saturn needed to clear it away so you could build something even better. But if it's kind of putting pressure, but you're still very committed, just take that energy to build, to connect, to be disciplined about how the two of you collaborate. My Virgo risings, Saturn and Jupiter will be in your 6th house. Now, you guys already, you know, you guys are into the daily routines. You guys are into maximizing your immediate surroundings. So if you've been doing the due diligence, if you've been setting up a routine for yourself that works for you and that gets you closer to your goals, Saturn will likely be rather nice to you. But if you have not, Saturn's coming, and it's coming in with a vengeance. So I want you to really look at your routine, Virgo risings, and make sure it supports your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, as well as your goals moving forward. So it's like if you want white teeth in 10 years, brush your teeth every day. If you want to be an artist, paint every day. It's taking the macro of your goals and breaking it down to the micro version of what that means and what that entails. You might find that with Saturn kind of pressurizing your 6th house, the relationship you have with your employees is strained. And it might take discipline for you to set up, you know, a communication structure with them to ensure that you are being clear, that you are being exact, and that you guys are getting done what you need to get done. It's also pressurizing health. So like I said, daily routine and diet needs to be something that you take seriously during this time. But you could find Jupiter's there. So it could be something very expansive and educational for you to learn more about your body. Like if you always get tummy aches after you eat, like studying, okay, it only happens after I eat grains, these kind of grains, maybe let me cut this out. And it can feel like you feel a lot more like weightless and free and embodied. You could also find that you try a new exercise routine that you love, that expands you. Maybe you get certified in something so it makes you want to do it more. You know, with Jupiter there, it does indicate it's more fun, but Saturn wants you to put in these changes so you are, you know, giving your body the maintenance that it needs to be the best person that you can be. This will also take place in work. So ensuring that, you know, you're exerting your due diligence in the work that you do day to day, that you're making time for all your big picture tasks as well as the small minutia of your work. And you might find that all of a sudden, just your errands, your to-do list, it'll just feel really packed, Virgo rising. But I'm not worried about you guys because you guys are very detail oriented. You guys kind of thrive with that. But just trust that your to-do list will be swamped. But with Jupiter, there's a lot of learning opportunity and learning how to juggle these extra client opportunities that come up or these extra tasks at work that you have to take on. So I'd really recommend, you know, saying yes and using the Saturn influence to be structured about your daily routine. Get a planner, put everything on your task list. You're gonna need to be organized to kind of survive 2021 because you've got a lot coming your way in terms of work, but it can be very expansive and very educational for you. Libra rising. Saturn and Jupiter are chilling in your 5th house through 2021, through the most part of 2021. And you could find that, you know, the activities that used to be fun for you just aren't that fun. Like you might be like, wow, I used to love like getting drunk and going out before the quarantine. And now after we've been in quarantine, I just want to like, I'm not interested anymore. That seems so boring and like a waste of money. Or like creativities that you used to love, forms of creativity that you used to love, you're just like, you won't feel that zest for it. And now you've got to distinguish the difference because Saturn is making you be a little bit more serious about your entertainment. And some of those things can fall away. There can be things that you've like grown out of, like, you know, like partying or certain things. But also if you're a creative person and the forms of creativity that you're not as interested in are important to you, it's going to take you being disciplined about doing them every single like day or week, whatever works for you. So it's like, you know, muse isn't always going to be there. Saturn is about, can we muscle through our creativity even when we're not inspired, even when it doesn't come easy? Because, you know, the advice for writers is write every single day. And it's not going to be the best writing every day, but if you work it like a muscle of kind of forcing yourself to show up, you never know the bits of genius that can kind of come out just because you forced yourself to show up. So expect, you know, there's going to be a lull in terms of inspiration for creativity. and to discipline yourself to show up regardless. And, you know, some forms of creativity will fall away, and that's okay. But if it's something that you're serious about, being disciplined about showing up. You could also find that you're not as inclined to, you know, date or just do things just to do things. You're a little bit more serious. Also, if there's a hobby that you love with Saturn there, you could absolutely like turn it into something that makes you money. And yes, that does kind of suck the fun out of it, right? When we're like doing something because it's our work. But you are setting up, you know, a daily routine where you're doing things that expand you. And yes, it's not as fun because there's, you know, paperwork and there's admin stuff, but you're building something that you feel strongly about and that feels fun to you, and that's really exciting. Because with Jupiter there as well, if we muscle through it, if we set ourselves up on like a strict schedule of when we create, Jupiter promises that there can be expansive opportunities from, you know, the works that we create or from the businesses that we create. It can really expand that sector of your chart, as well as with people that you date. As I mentioned, Saturn, you might be like, I don't want to go out with them. But Jupiter does promise that we can be really expanded by the new kind of romantic flings that enter our life. We could be very inspired by them. So if you are looking for someone, being disciplined about, you know, making that time to go out on a date and to kind of ignite your lust for life. Or if you're in a committed relationship, being disciplined about making sure the two of you connect, you two of you have your date nights, you do the things to ensure that you're still nurturing the union. Fifth house is also children, so relationships with children could be under a little bit strain, or you have to take a more responsible role for them. You could have to, you know, Jupiter in the fifth, you could have to teach them something, be the teacher, homeschool them, or just, you know, kind of take more of a mentor role with your children. Scorpio rising, Saturn and Jupiter are at the bottom of your chart in the fourth house through 2021. And this is going to take you having to be very, very disciplined about the home that you live in and the sanctuary that you create. You could find that you have a lot more maintenance problems. All of a sudden, there's termites here, there's cockroaches, I've got to get new floor, there's all of these things. And Saturn's asking you to be responsible, like know what it means to be a homeowner or to, you know, rent an apartment and to build a place that feels safe and feels supportive at the end of the day. It's not going to come easy. It'll feel like there's like maintenance issues, or you like need to renovate something, or you have to redecorate. Like you'll have to put in work, but by the end of it, you'll feel really, really capable as someone who owns a home. Other possibilities, if you know, you also may like have to like look for a roommate, or you might feel a little bit more distant from your roommate. You might find that home isn't as comfortable as a place to be in. Jupiter does promise though, if we honor Saturn, we get Jupiter, right? When they're co-creating. So honor Saturn by putting in the daily kind of discipline to keep your home in check, to nurture the relationships with your roommate and with your family members. And then you'll find that you start getting some kind of expansive benefits in terms of home. So, you know, you could move house, you could move to somewhere that's bigger, you could expand in some way. And for you to expand, you know, you have to do the due diligence. You have to like list your home and put it on the market and renovate. But then you get expansion, right? Then you get excitement moving forward. So it definitely could be a propensity for that. It also could put pressure on your family relationships. So you might be asked to be a more active participant in the family. You could have to take care of your parents or take care of your grandparents or something of the nature. Or you could have to like really work to putting in the effort to connect with your family and, you know, work on your relationship. But if it is a little bit of a strained relationship, because with Jupiter there, you could really patch up some holes in your relationship with your family members during this time. Sagittarius rising, Saturn and Jupiter are in your third house. And so Sagittarius rising, you know, wants all the things, excited about all the things, and this is really a time to just be curious about the world around you. And with Saturn in the third house, especially at the beginning, you may notice that like you're normally very loquacious and you just don't have as much to say. Like you might feel a little restricted in speaking your truth, or you might be in a new neighborhood or a new environment, a new community that you don't feel as comfortable speaking your truth. So it might take some kind of work to like gain confidence and speaking out about your ideals, your humanitarian ideals, like in line with, you know, Aquarius. You also might find that, you know, you're getting a certification, like Saturn is responsible, third house is certification and classes and things like that. So you might have this extra responsibility of things that you put on your plate. And it could just make you feel like a little like kind of blocked or a little stuck. But definitely anything that you're fascinated by, I would definitely say dive in deeper. You know, Jupiter is expanding this area, so you can certainly get some new certifications under your belt or study new things or really bolster, you know, your view of the world. You could learn a new language. You can really go so many places with this energy. So with Saturn and Jupiter in this area, it's asking you, yes, be excited about, you know, how you're expanding and the things that you're learning. But with Saturn there as well, it's asking you put in the due diligence to make it happen. And you can take this in so many different directions. You can, you know, learn a language would be an awesome usage of this. You could start a blog would be another amazing thing. But it's important the endeavors that you start. It's not enough to, like, you know, do Duolingo 2 days out of the week and then forget about it, or to write 2 blog posts and then forget about it. It's asking you to be disciplined about how you're showing up, how you're speaking out, and how you're learning new things. My Capricorn Rising, Saturn and Jupiter are collaboratively expanding while restricting your second house of resources and money. And so really, I mean, you guys are very disciplined folks. So it's really essential that you get your budget on point. Even if you're listening to this before, you know, this all happens, start saving, start investing, get yourself on a really disciplined plan, because if you get that all kind of before Saturn enters this area, it won't have to scream. You know, it whispers and then it screams. So if you feel out of control in terms of your spending, make sure to discipline it before Saturn catches up to you, because, you know, it's the planet of karma. It'll come down on you super hard. So clean up your finances, know where your money goes, ensure that you're budgeting for retirement and investment and things like that. You could feel limited in terms of your spending, and this could either be, you know, you lost a stream of income, or it could be, you know, you really have your sights on buying this new house. So you've got to keep, you know, your spending under wraps. With Jupiter in your second, if you budget and really kind of figure out where each dollar is going, give each dollar a job of what it needs to do for you, Jupiter does promise more money coming in. But I want you to be mindful, because Jupiter expands in both ways. It expands money coming in, but just by the same token, expands money going out. With Saturn there, be responsible. If you can just get more money and allow your lifestyle to stay the same, you'll be able to save, invest, and get so much closer to your financial goals. Really fight against lifestyle inflation in 2021, Capricorn Rising. You guys are hardworking, you know, you build from the ground up, you do so many amazing things, but you could find in 2021, you're like, oh great, more money, now I get to stop budgeting, it comes in and comes out. Really keep yourself on track, because if you get your spending out of control, Saturn will come through, and that's your ruler, you know? It'll come through and it'll be like, not so fast. Let me hit you with a bill to remind you to be responsible about your finances. So seriously, put down the effort. And it could be a time of really bolstering your skill set. You could like learn new kind of skills to make money. So you could like, you know, learn Google AdWords, or do something to kind of allow you to be a more valuable kind of asset in the job market. Would be a really, really beneficial time for that. And you could really find an expansion in clientele, but you need to put yourself out there and ensure you're doing the due diligence for these extra revenue streams to find you. Friends, what questions do you have about Jupiter and Saturn and their journey in Aquarius through end of 2020 to 2021? I'd love to hear them. Just comment them down below. My Instagram is @HealyCometAstrology. It's on the screen. I run a weekly Monday morning IGTV show called Magic Monday, which breaks down every day in the week and how you can synchronize your schedule with it for maximum magic and impact within your life. I absolutely love doing it, if you can't tell. If you got any value out of this video, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like, a comment, subscribe, turn the bell on, whatever it is, any engagement, I would just really appreciate. And with that being said, I hope you all have the most beautiful week. Drink lots of water and stay cosmic.